Welcome to another episode of the Weekly InSalt. My name is Wade. It's episode 343. I almost skipped it intentionally so that you would make fun of me.
I was waiting.
Because we talked about that the other night. Here with Laura.
Hey,
Laura, it's been a while.
It has.
Welcome back to the studio.
Thank you.
Yeah. Is your body falling apart still?
Still slowly. Every day it falls apart a little bit more.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Also here with Ches.
Hey everybody, how's it going?
He made some ribs last night that were delicious.
Yes.
Thank you for those. And we're here with the landlord of sound.
The landlord of sound. Where did you get that at?
I was going to do superintendent, but I'll save that for a different one.
That's funny.
Thought of that one yesterday. He's just going to get on you for not mowing your lawn and all that stuff. But yeah, that's Kurt.
That's right.
Hey, Kurt.
And we've got guests in the studio today, Mark Mountain. He's here to join us and talk about all of the silly things we talk about, and plus your recent, I guess, endeavor into art or being a creative. We talked about that a little before the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, yes. Welcome. It always is. It's interesting that's one of the first things that we talked about was the word artist. Mm-hmm. You know, I feel like if you tell somebody you're an artist, it comes with a prejudgment. Right?
It does, yeah. That means you have to be really good.
Well, no, I mean either that or it just means you're broke and don't know what you want to do. You know? Like I think that's the way a lot of people think of it.
Yeah,
but
I like the way you put it.
Creative.
Yes.
Creative is much better. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I think about that. I was thinking about that while we were talking. I'm like, oh man, I hate how creative I am because. Playing a band, do the podcast, you know, cook, film things. Like I'm all over the place. No wonder I can't get anything done.
You know what? My brother Pat is a philosopher, and he said the same thing. He's like, I don't go around telling people I'm a philosopher.
Yeah,
that'd be awkward.
That would be a little weird.
Yeah.
Huh. I don't know. Sometimes I tell people I'm a software engineer, and they're kind of like, "Oh, so you're super smart." I'm like,
the assumption.
I failed math. Like all through school, I hated math because I had a computer that could do it for me.
Right.
But yeah, it's interesting how.
And our teachers told us, "You're not going to walk around with a calculator in your pocket." But guess what?
Yeah, now we walk around with a whole computer in our pocket. Yeah. This was more powerful than the first desktop I ever had.
Yeah.
You know, the cell phone.
Yeah, we're walking around with more computing power in our pocket than what landed man on the moon.
Yeah, that's true. Sometimes I think that stuff that landed the man on the moon
scary,
is a little more reliable.
Yeah. Because they had people double checking everything.
Weren't we walking around with that technology 30, 40 years ago in our pocket?
Yeah, I think so. There's probably more technology in the brick cell phones.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, those were cool. I think they should bring those back.
Yeah.
Or at least the Sidekick.
I don't know. I carried a pager back in the day.
Sure.
Oh, so did I. I had one of those giant cell phones.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the
first
gray
Motorola.
Yeah.
Did you have it like a purse, like where you had to keep it in a bag there?
Yeah, you sling it over your shoulder. Oh, yeah.
Satchel.
It was good for about 30 feet, but it was kind of nice that people couldn't get in touch with you.
Yeah, and I got in trouble because I ordered a pizza with it because it was a company-provided cell phone. I was like, I'm hungry and I want some pizza, so I ordered a pizza with it, and that cost me $20, and $20 back then was a lot of money.
It cost you more than the pizza.
Yeah.
What do you mean it cost you $20?
The call.
Oh, gotcha.
It cost him minutes, first of all.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot about the day that you had to pay for your minutes.
Yeah.
Working
it's
a
like
score
$5 a minute.
That's crazy to think. It's weird thinking back now that like the economy's so different, you know. But speaking of things being different, I wanted to ask you specifically about the differences you talked about. So you moved here pretty recently from Massachusetts.
I did.
You said, and then you were specifically talking about some of the differences that you've noticed since you've moved here. What are some of those?
So the biggest one I'd say is that you have freeways running down the middle of your city.
Yeah.
I mean, that's unheard of. I mean, there are cow paths up where I was. Traffic seems to be non-existent. Now, I haven't hit what you'd call a traffic jam, and I haven't done all that much driving, but everything with those roads flows. The people are 100% different.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Like different, or just like how different?
Like nicer or more asshole?
So I think there's subtle differences in those, though. So as much as I'm from Massachusetts, my adult life is spent mainly there. I'm from Minnesota, so there are more similarities from people in Minnesota to here. Very outwardly friendly. The biggest one that I would say is that out there people are very honest and very abrupt with you. Like, I don't want to say this here, but
just opinion.
Back east, blunt.
Well, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
You know, and I always see it written where somebody changes your tire and lectures you about doing it, but they're changing your tire for you. That's the example I see the most. But the one that I had, which was the most eye-opener, and I'm gonna use a word from the childhood, but first time I ever got off the plane my mother took us to, and maybe tourists ever knows Massachusetts, you go on the Freedom Trail. We're walking down the street, I make eye contact in Minnesota, you know, you'd wave to the farmer, the guy on the tractor.
Yeah.
I looked at this guy, we made eye contact, so I said hello. And he looked right at me and said, "What are you, a faggot or something?"
Oh, jeez.
And I said, okay, well, there's a huge difference. Now, pardon that expression.
Yeah.
Here, I've run into both, but people have been overwhelmingly friendly. Like when I went on that hike yesterday, the amount of people I talked to who were willing to stop and talk, to chat, was fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it felt like you were at home. Mm-hmm. So I don't know anything about most of the people out here, where they're from, or if there's mostly transplants, but I started to be able to tell who is from Utah.
Yeah.
There seems to be, especially the men.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the men were a little more reserved.
Mm-hmm.
The wife and stuff was always very friendly.
Mm-hmm.
But to a person, I had a great experience with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I've noticed, I follow a lot of I'm on Reddit, so I follow the Salt Lake subreddit, and a lot of what the feedback there is on the people that move here, they say everybody's really friendly but really guarded of their own personal groups.
That's Minnesota.
They're very quick to say, "Oh, hey, welcome to Utah. Like, you should do this and check this out." And it's like, "Oh, well, I'm looking for some people to hang out with." They're like, I don't know about that.
Yeah. I think that's probably what, Boston has so many transplants anyway, or Massachusetts, that it's a little bit different. You can break in a lot easier.
Yeah. So. And I think that the church probably has a lot to do with that, because I mean the church definitely instills like kindness and help others out, but then at the same time it's very cliquey in a way. Mm-hmm. Like you have these little groups that will be like, "Nah, we're good," like we've got our group, we don't really need anybody else in the group, which is, I think, happens everywhere. I don't think that's unique to Salt Lake.
Yeah, maybe not. Yeah, I think it does happen everywhere, but I think I look at our group, and we're a group of misfits. I notice that because
100%.
We didn't know each other, and there's a large group of us, and everybody's always welcome.
Yeah, our group, I think, is really unique because we just don't judge anybody. It's like everybody goes through different things, and I think a lot of people tend to judge a lot more than I think is necessary, which is, I mean, fine. Do what you're going to do. As long as it doesn't bother me or affect me in any way, have fun. I don't care.
That's how I feel.
So, I mean, I said before doing this, or asking, to come on, just to go, I need to meet people and things.
Yeah.
Well, the trepidation wasn't with any of you, but coming in here and then saying, "Well, yeah, you can swear, you can do anything." Well, I felt right at home.
Yeah.
I really did. I mean, it's fantastic.
Yeah, we've done this for way too long now. I think we're on, did we finally make it to year 7? I think I've been telling people, it just feels like 7 years. I don't know.
In a good way, I hope?
In a good way, yeah.
Okay.
It's got to be at least 7 now.
At least.
I haven't been here that long, but yeah.
Yeah.
Is it always your core?
I've always been around. Chez has always been around too for a while. We've switched some people around as things have changed, and people.
Some people have come and gone, but
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to get too deep into it, but yeah, I mean, things are changing right now. We just unfortunately found out that the American Forked podcast, who we're great friends with, they are no longer doing their podcast. I don't know if we're breaking that news on the show today, and if I misconstrue it, then that's totally my fault, but yeah, so we met with one of their previous hosts last night to talk about, things moving forward and see if we can fit them in somewhere, or at least some of their ideas. And I think the reality is doing a podcast is hard because it's just a hobby. Like we've all got stuff to do during the week, and it gets hard to focus on like, what are we going to talk about this weekend? I think you're the first guest we've had in quite a while, honestly, and I think that was just like a good crime of opportunity. Hey, he expressed some interest, and I'm like, let's do it. Yeah.
I like to talk, and I like new people, so it worked out perfectly for me.
So what first got you started looking into like your art? So do you do mostly drawing, or do you do painting? And
so you had touched on something that I with your artist friend.
Oh yeah, Dale.
In doing things, I never stick to any one thing.
Okay.
And I rarely finish anything. So some of that stuff, like I I showed you a picture of the birch trees and things like that. That's a 20-year-old drawing.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
But it's more fun for me to get to the point in making those tools that eventually get you to a point where you can finish something. It doesn't, I mean, I think I took that inspiration from an artist friend of my mother's.
Mm-hmm.
She puts plastic bags in her paintings for texture. And then,
interesting.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
and I give you the name and stuff in there, but they're beautiful. And, you know, that gets me thinking about what you can do. That whole idea of inventing your own method of doing something.
Yeah.
And most of them fail
Sure.
terribly. But I also find going back to them that they're useful in something else that I find.
Like pottery, maybe.
So pottery's not one I've touched on, but pyography, I think is how you pronounce it. Painting with fire.
Oh, never heard of it.
Well, you know how everybody had a wood burning? You burn your
Yeah.
baseball mitt or something. Turns out there's a whole way of painting with that. So I bought a device. It's all in Chinese, so I don't know how many people do it, but it's kind of like when a guy carves with a chainsaw.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm assuming that they get the color out of it by using like a blowtorch or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's got all these little attachments on it where you can I'll carve something, and then I'll go back and burn over it to get the color,
the detail. Yeah.
That's what I find the most fun. Is
Yeah.
trying different things and putting those together.
I think that's smart too, because it's almost like you're constantly learning and you're adding these tools to like your artistic tool or your creative tool belt of like, oh, I'm trying this new piece of art that I've never done before, but I remember this technique that I used on this that didn't work, but it might work perfect.
Exactly.
And then when it all comes together, like as a creative person, when your idea comes together, it feels so good.
Oh, yeah.
You're like, I can't believe that worked. This looks amazing, or sounds amazing, or tastes amazing, you know?
So
Yeah.
I have a story that anybody that knows me would be sick and tired of hearing, I'm sure. But when I was a little kid, my mother took me to the Institute of Art in Minneapolis, and there's a sculpture that's about yay big. And it's the Veiled Lady by, forgive me the name, Raphael Monte. But it has a veil on it, and you can see through it to her eyes, her face. But it's made out of marble.
Oh,
So it
that's
just
cool.
blew my mind. I would sit there, and people would walk right past it, and I'd say, stop,
that is
take
amazing.
a look.
That's like...
Oh, you see it?
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's made out of marble, but there's a veil. Oh,
Yeah.
It looks like the texture of a veil. And it's in
Somebody
marble.
made
It's crazy.
I think it was only in style for a short period of time because it was so difficult to learn. But there's a Shroud of Trin full body one.
Oh, wow.
That's the one that they had there, and I think that's their biggest piece. But I just would see people walking
Imagine
by
the
it.
time to do that detail.
That is kind of plays into what I was going to say, was that I've never considered myself an artist. I was like the trying stuff out, and
Wow.
Yeah, that's insane.
isn't that mind blowing? Yeah, and I can't imagine how long it would take. But I stopped trying to do that because it was. I mean, I would carve something and I would look on it from one direction and say, "Oh, well, I'm accomplishing some of that, like a 3D effect out of wood."
Yeah.
And then you turn your head a little bit, and it was gone.
Yeah.
So, and I don't have enough time to learn.
I think it's more
Marble.
about patience too. I have zero patience when it comes to learning certain things, like pottery. I tried.
Yeah, I
Failed
tried it when I
epically.
was in high school, and it was okay, but I'm like, I don't know if I really want to do this, you know?
Impressionism, then. Outside of watercolors, outside the lines,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So at any rate, the whole thing that I figured out in my head that I wanted to do was, and I don't actually ever want to achieve it, which is the Veiled Lady.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's leading up to it. If I actually ever achieved it, then what would I do?
Yeah, that's right.
I
Move on to something else.
I think I'd be so disappointed. I think I want it to take me all to the end. I don't care if I ever get there.
Yeah.
I don't think I care if I ever create something that somebody else wants. But I'm not saying that I can either. Again, I'm going to have that modesty part of it that I don't want to be called an artist or anything. Just
So you kind of want to be a jack of all trades, but a master of none.
yes.
But I kind of think that's what being creative in a way is, because you're always looking for that next inspiration, and it might not be even close to the inspiration that you had on your previous piece or whatever. So you're constantly, it's like the game of golf. Even the pros aren't happy with their game. You know, they're still not
something
good
better,
at it.
right?
Yeah, there's
Yep.
always something better you can do.
Well, so I'd always had this thought in my head that I never could articulate, and by no means am I making a comparison here, but I did read about it in one of Da Vinci's things where he said that when you are creating something, if you can go into that moment where you're just doing, you create the rules.
Yeah.
And then once you get out, all the rules that we have around us, they don't make any sense anymore. They just kind of fall apart. But in there, I've never found that I could sit with a teacher and they say, well, this is how you do this.
Yeah.
I don't want to know that. I want to get there on my own.
Mm-hmm.
It was like in IT when I first started in the mid-90s. If a printer didn't work, you had to write the print driver.
Yeah.
So you learned how everything worked.
Yeah.
There was no answers. Well, you couldn't Google it like you can now.
Yeah. AI wasn't around to give you
AI wasn't around.
YouTube.
So you just had to figure it out.
Yeah. There is a lot to be said. That's probably why I'm so creative as well. Like, it's the process of learning and figuring it out that's the exciting part. And then when you make that connection, even if somebody has already gotten there and I could watch a video or something and be like, oh, that's the technique, it's way cooler to figure out the technique.
Oh, yeah.
Because then you understand the entire thing. And you're like, now how can I apply this or change that? You can bend the rules then or change the rules.
The rules are your own.
Yeah.
And there are no rules.
Yeah.
You just do whatever you want.
Like, this technique works this way, but what if I used it over here where nobody's done that before? Will it even work? Does it make sense?
I may have a pathological hatred of authority, too, so that might play into it a bit.
I might as well.
It defines disorder. Like, hey, go over there. Well, if I don't want to go over there.
I don't want to go there.
Yes, I can tell myself something and not want to do it. So, it's like, you need to go to the bathroom. Mm-hmm. No, you don't.
No, I'm too deep into
I'm not doing
I
that.
can't stop yet. I can't stop.
Right. But I will say that there was a point when I was sitting on the main street in the town that I was living in, and I was painting. I made a what do you call it? It was a little thing that I could paint on, right?
Yeah.
Easel?
An easel, but yeah, kind of.
Sort of,
Yeah. The canvas was just a sheet of paper.
Mm-hmm.
I can't typically do something on a blank canvas. I have to have like an old sandwich bag or something to do it on. I don't know why, but it seems like if this is the closest, and just writing down some notes and things like that. But so I was down there and I was painting on this main street, and it was 11, 12 o'clock at night, and I was listening to a Grateful Dead tune, one for like 20 minutes where they jammed on and on. Mm-hmm. And I was painting, and after about 20 minutes, there might have been some, now keep in mind marijuana is perfectly legal out there, so I might have been a little high too. Yeah. So I was listening to some tunes, and I kind of went into that zone where I wasn't thinking about what I was doing anymore. But I noticed that as I kind of came out of it, that I was painting, and you know how if you're left-handed you run out of space?
Yeah.
I was switching the paintbrush to my left hand and going back over it and going with the music.
You got into a weird flow state.
Yes. Yeah. And that was maybe as close as I want to come to hitting that spot.
Yeah.
Not the end product, but that space where you just suddenly...
You're not thinking about what you're doing anymore. You're just purely feeling it.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And
God, that was fun.
That's like what a lot of musicians strive for. It's like, and I think that's like playing in my band, we always have not arguments, but disagreements on what certain things should be. Like, what we're the genre of a band. And I'm like, I don't like putting it that way because I just want to play whatever feels good and what feels fun and what I like. That was a really cool guitar riff you had. Let's make something out of that, and then just put all of those really cool parts together. And if we like it, great. If anybody else likes it, that's a benefit. But if not, I don't care.
I think that's why I like the Grateful Dead so much too.
Yeah.
They either
part of
were
the jam
really
band.
good or they were really bad.
Have you heard that Grateful Dead?
The tribute band?
The tribute band.
Which one? There's plenty of them. Even
the so we had I don't remember
Dark
what their name
Star?
is, but are you talking about the one with Mike Lookinland?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I've heard. I've seen some videos with him on the Brady Bunch kid, right?
Yeah.
We had him on our show.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah.
Oh, you gotta let me know that one. That was interesting. That he.
Can you find the episode number of that?
Yeah.
And then we'll tell because that organically recently that's gotten a lot of hits off of YouTube. Like I think people Google Mike Lookinland and then our podcast comes up. But
I see no reason why he wouldn't like him.
I'm trying to remember that song now.
Which song?
The one we were just talking about. The Grateful Dead.
Just Grateful Dead, yeah. I mean, I don't really know any of their songs because they're...
No, not the Grateful Dead.
Episode 294.
294, yeah. Go listen to that one if you want to hear about Mike Lookinland.
Yeah.
That was really cool. He did talk about Brady Bunch stuff a little bit, and I guess
His band is called the Pranksters.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, that makes sense. Up to King Kesey.
They did pretty good. I went to their show. They played at the Pearl on Main, and it was cool. Like, they sounded great, and that's just something that he obviously still has the creative in him too. Of like, he's not doing TV anymore necessarily. I think he said something in that episode that I don't think has come out yet.
Nope.
Still looked for it.
So I've seen a bunch of the bands that, like Dark Star Orchestra, that Joe Russo has one, called Almost Dead, and the one thing I get from it, and being how old I am, so I graduated from high school in '89, and Jerry was dead by '95.
Yeah.
So I only got to see him maybe a couple dozen times tops, right, with that original lineup. But because of that thing where I was saying that I don't want to reach perfection, that's what they always were. It was just trying stuff out, see where it takes you. And sometimes it really hit and sometimes it didn't.
Yeah.
When you hear I like the bands that play it back perfectly. I mean, the Dark Star Orchestra is the one that was interesting when they first came out because they played the concert exactly the way they did it in time, screw up at the same point, stage banter if there was any would do it, and at the end of the show you got to guess which year it was and what day it's from. Now,
that's a really cool concept.
That is.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And I think they've all played with what were the living members.
Yeah.
I don't want to go too far off on the dead, but I'm a big fan.
No, that's totally fine. I actually went to the Kilby Block Party this last weekend, which is 4 days at the Utah Fairgrounds of music. A lot of indie stuff, but I just can't help but mention that I got to see Devo, which was so sweet. Yeah. They sounded exactly the same, and I was like, and they're old now, they're older guys, and they're out on stage just ripping it like they're having the time of their lives. I think the other one was New Order, was another big one that used to be Joy Division, I think.
Yeah, they started as Joy Division. They only lasted a year or so before the lead singer died.
Oh, okay.
And then they reformed with a new lead singer as New Order.
Yeah, it was. They were really good too, and then of course Weezer headlined on Saturday, so you can't not go see Weezer.
Right.
I think there might be some age gaps too. I'm not sure how old anybody else is here, but I mean, like I was a little kid when Whip It. Came out.
Oh, so, yeah.
So when you say that they're old men now, I mean that makes me feel old.
I was going to say fine
not
old way.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, I think I had the 45.
Oh yeah,
of Whip It.
Okay, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I bet you wish you still had it.
Well,
it sounded exactly the same. That's what we heard right when we walked into because I wanted to see them. Right when we were walking into the festival, I heard Whip It, and I was like, how do they do it? It still sounds exactly the same as you'd hear it on the radio. It's
Did
crazy.
They do the same dancing in the little pyramid hats?
Everything, everything's exactly the same. Like, it just works. And they've actually, I think they incorporated the band Devo now, so they just, I think, travel on their own, and they just, so I was like buying a Devo shirt, of course, because that money's going right to those guys, for sure. But going out to the block party was really cool just to get, it was really inspiring to see that many artists in one spot, and then be able to, I don't really like this one, so let's walk over to the other stage and see what's going on there.
So how much was the shirt and how much was beer?
In short, all of it was expensive, but the ticket I think I had the ticket stub for 4 days at the festival. All 4 days was almost $300.
That's not bad for 4 days worth of concerts, but
you didn't drink that much beer then. Brought your own? Right?
No, we drank a lot of beer.
Okay,
but it was like throughout the day, right? Because you're there. Music starts at 11 a.m. and you're leaving at 10:30 p.m. or 11 at night. And so you get throughout the day. Beer, I think for a 24-ounce Arnold Palmer was $13, but then plus tip.
Average.
And then you'd have to add a tip, right?
And they more at other events.
Yeah, it was pretty reasonable. But then they also had a different area that had a bar where you could get a gin and tonic or something, and those were $14 up to $18.
And they could pay $15 for
and they were
in those Arnold Palmers at a baseball game.
Yeah.
That's expensive, but that might be another comparison from out east to here too. I mean, when I saw these were $5.
Yeah.
Pack of smokes has got to be $16 out there at this point.
Wow.
I think the last time
11,
11, 12. Yeah.
There's healthcare out there too. So I'm assuming that a lot of that money off that just goes right for the universal healthcare of Massachusetts that you have to have.
Yeah.
That I didn't have. But, we were talking about too a Big Mac. I mean, it's outrageous.
Oh, it's
$13, $14
is crazy.
Yeah.
For one Big Mac?
For one Big Mac.
I don't even like Big Macs.
It doesn't taste like
Taco
it
Bell's
used to.
getting expensive too. I think the Mexican pizza at Taco Bell now is $9. or something, $8.
Yeah, that's pretty pricey.
So you can go get a pizza at Little Caesars for...
Yeah. Yeah, but then you also have to eat Little Caesars.
Yeah.
right.
But it's just fat. It's the McDonald's of pizza. That's the way I look at Little Caesars.
Exactly.
That's why I prefer to cook at home. That's my creative cooking.
Says the person who DoorDashes Taco Bell.
Hey, I didn't say I was motivated. I am a little lazy sometimes.
We're triggering Kurt. It's almost... Oh man, DoorDash
and Taco Bell's a block away.
Well, speaking of DoorDash, really quick,
I think that our audience has to be sick of us.
No, this one's funny.
Okay,
so there's a DoorDash delivery driver who just scammed DoorDash out of $2.5 million in 8 months.
Oh, so is he in prison now?
Yeah, he's going.
Yeah, he's on his way.
How did he do that?
Yeah.
He found a way to make fake orders and get paid for them.
Oh wow!
Let's see. I'm sure
creative.
That's a creative brain wasted right there.
Yeah. So they were creating these fake orders and then never having to make the deliveries and.
Ex-DoorDash driver admits to $2.5 million fraud scheme.
Wow.
Oh,
jeez.
It's making me. Oh nope! It's trying to get me to disable my ad blocker. Sons of bitches. Sons of bitches. Former food delivery driver pleaded guilty to conspiring with others to steal more than $2.5 million on DoorDash.
Good. DoorDash deserves that.
Let's see. Prosecutors said he used customer accounts to place high-value orders and then used an employee's credentials to gain access to DoorDash software and manually reassign the orders to driver accounts that he and others controlled.
Which employee gave him the credentials?
Here's the thing. I bet you nobody did. I bet they hacked it because DoorDash never thought about that. They're probably what would be the benefit? Brilliant, dude.
That's why I said a great mind waste right there.
Yeah.
Well, does he have to go to jail or repay the money or both?
Let's
Probably
see.
both. It's fraud.
The now former employee in the scam pleaded guilty to conspiracy to commit wire fraud in November.
Bigger crime.
20 years in prison and a fine of $250,000. He's scheduled to return. It hasn't been convicted yet. You never know. That might be one of the people how'd you get in there? Maybe you should just come work for the FBI.
Right.
Yeah.
Like the Catch Me If You
We have
Can.
an offer for you.
Yeah.
20 years in prison or this.
I mean, that's the thing that right now is the scariest is that software is this digital thing that has all sorts of vulnerabilities, nothing connected to the internet is ever safe.
Nope.
So somebody will find a way to abuse it.
You got to make sure you're air gapped.
What do you mean?
It's never connected to the internet.
Oh yeah. I mean, even then, there's still physical vulnerability.
Yeah.
As long as I can plug in a thumb drive.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, then you're just physically, you don't have to worry about somebody remotely.
Yeah.
Well, that kind of thing when the internet, I don't know when the internet started, but when people started using it in mass was that it made me think that anonymity was no longer a thing instantly.
Yeah.
And the more you put out there, the less you have, but it doesn't really matter. Put a little bit out, you're going to get everything, right?
No, and we've talked about this on the show before too. It's everybody in the early 2000s was, and I think even probably the mid 2000s, but there's that conspiracy theory about the government, they're secretly going to put chips in you, and it's you don't have to because we all carry the chip.
We
you know what I mean?
We carry our tracking devices with us.
I was just reading the other day that the game Angry Birds I was telling you about, and Angry Birds and in a number of other games, the government actively reached out, or at least somebody did, and said, hey, we need to be able to identify phones that are making these requests. And so really, by downloading those games and sending things across the internet, your phone is identifiable to you.
Yep.
Without a doubt. They've built a profile about your phone that's about you. And then if you get into advertising, dang, we're just saying all the Kurt trigger words today.
Yeah, the targeting advertising.
But the targeting advertising. And
wasn't there a documentary about that where they said that, not only could they know you, but 5 of your friends and 5 of their friends? And
yeah, it's scary. We're going through security, a login system revamp at our work, and the idea came up to use question and answer challenges, security questions. But they're not really they're frowned upon now, because if it asks you what's the name of your first pet and you're really active on Facebook, I can probably figure it out by looking at your Facebook profile. Yeah. So are they really that secure?
I don't think so.
So then you go with other things.
Unless you go with something completely random that nobody knows.
Yeah. I mean, Kurt, have you gotten to the point where you're using password phrases now instead of just passwords?
Yeah, I use sentences.
You use full sentences?
I use full sentences too. Mm-hmm.
Really? Yeah. It's safer, technically, because the brute force attack, which is just let's try everything we can think of, would take way too long to create a sentence.
So how long is the sentence?
The quick brown fox.
That's exactly what I was going with in my
lazy dog.
That many.
Well, you also it's also fair, like we should qualify your password necessity because you work for a bank.
I do, yeah.
So you probably are forced to have a very secure password.
I definitely am.
Geez, I used to work for a bank and they didn't. You could always pick up a keyboard and find the password.
Like post a note on the bottom.
Maybe way back in the day, but not now.
Yeah, that was
I have to log into the network, then I have to log into VPN, then I have to log into this, and finally I'm there.
Yeah. So you're at like 3 layers of security, or more probably.
Yeah, if I'm working remote, I've got to go through a VPN with an authentication and a
token. These things tokens,
and then I have to put my fingerprint on it.
Oh yeah.
That's the last.
Biometric.
Yep. So I go through. Whoops. Sorry, microphone. So I go through all of that, and then I have to put a 4-digit code in. Yeah. And then it'll prompt me to put my fingerprint on the little token.
Yeah, that's basically
so it's like 4 layers.
That's probably how they found out.
4 or 5 layers.
The DoorDash guy. That's probably how he got caught. As they were like, wait a second, let's look at the logs of who's logging in. This person doesn't work here anymore. Why is this account active? And then.
But wouldn't $2 million set up a bell or a whistle at some point?
It probably looked like to DoorDash that they were legitimate orders, and it was somebody in there just moving things around until they got past a certain threshold.
The Superman thing. Nobody will miss a couple pennies.
Superman or Office Space.
Office Space.
That's funny. Well, why don't we take a break for a minute, and then we'll come right back.
All right.
That's good.
And we're back. Weekly InSalt, episode 343 with Mark Mountain. Thank you again for joining us, taking time out of your Sunday, the May 25th. That was weird typing in the day. I don't like it when the day lines up with the year.
Why?
Yeah, I don't know.
25.
Because then I always second guess. Is this really what it's the right day?
5/25/25.
Wasn't it something that you were telling me about, like your golden birthday or whatever, is when you turn the same age as the year you were born?
Yeah. Mine was last year.
Yeah. Well, happy golden age, dark ages
25?
birthday.
62.
Yeah.
Oh, I think maybe you were 25.
Oh, yeah, that too.
Oh, those were the days. We were talking a lot during the break about things that should be talked about on the break, not about things that should be talked about on the air. But one thing that we did want to talk about that Laura had brought up.
I did, yeah. I was curious about the stark differences in coming from a legal state to a not legal state. And
qualify the legality.
For a rec state to a medical state.
A recreational
Talking about
state,
marijuana.
Yeah.
Murder is still illegal in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
I was like, which state's legal and which one's
right.
illegal?
Manslaughter, maybe.
No, but there is a lot of difference, I think, across the entire United States when it comes to marijuana.
So the biggest one that maybe not because things are still more or less illegal out here, except for this D9, let's just call it whatever weed you have here, that's legal.
Medical.
No. I mean the legal just for anybody.
What is it, like CBD9 or is it CBD?
No, it's.
Let me try.
So what it is, you guys have
like
a
Delta
hemp industry,
THC9 or something.
Delta 9, D9.
Delta 9.
Which I didn't see a whole lot of difference in between the gummies that you got there, but that's all you can get or food with it. But there's in Massachusetts, like my dad came to town and he's got back problems, neck problems, all sorts of stuff, and I talked him into going to the dispensary. So I thought that, and he was like, well, he's a former alcoholic and stuff. Maybe getting THC wouldn't be a good thing. But you can buy CBD anywhere, which I'm assuming you can here,
you
too.
You can, yeah.
But we go to the dispensary, and he's, of course, like an alcoholic, and he says, I shouldn't be saying this about my dad, but he's like, well, how about we'll get something with a little bit of kick to it. So we go in, and you can't actually buy them together. You have to have a medical card. You have to stand in one line. But I can go buy CBD and weed, but I can't buy them together.
Yeah.
In the other line.
Yeah.
Weird set of rules on
It's all
that.
like
that's how it is in Colorado, too, I think.
I think it's a money-making thing.
It could be.
The medical marijuana thing, and I know plenty of people who have it, they have to pay $130 a year to get it, and it's a Canadian company that provides them, and you tell them you have ingrown hairs, and they give it to you, and you don't pay the tax, the 20% tax on it. But there's so much weed out there that paying the 20% tax is only a convenience. You don't have to.
Yeah.
It's everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
But you can walk around Could you walk around out there and just smoke?
In Las Vegas, I believe on the Strip you can, or it just
I don't think you
you're
can. You can't in Nevada, no.
So you can't? I thought you could just walk around on the Strip.
No,
no.
People do.
Everybody's doing it.
How much trouble would it be for a police officer to stop you for smoking weed and have to go back? I mean,
Too
I guess
much.
they could write a ticket.
They've got more important shit to do.
Yes, exactly. So if you're going to a concert and everybody's walking up towards it, nobody's going to say anything.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can't in public.
Yeah, maybe
but
not.
you can.
No
one's going to say anything to you.
I mean, when Snoop Dogg played at the concert, the nighttime concert in Pioneer Park or wherever it used to be, I remember the line after I got out of work walking past. It was just everybody was smoking weed, and there's cops along the whole line. And some guys like, "Oh shit!" And the cops like, "We're not worried about that today."
No,
you know,
just
like we've got way more on our hands
Yeah.
than like worrying about you guys being high.
You know, it didn't used to be that way though. I mean, when I moved. I was in Minnesota, moved to Massachusetts for a long time. Then I got married, went back to Minnesota, got divorced, moved back to Massachusetts, and in that time they legalized it. It wasn't that everybody was cool about it; it just became legal all of a sudden. And then I think what happened was so. I don't want to say I'm from Minneapolis originally, or a little suburb adjacent to it that's got a really weird name, so I'm not gonna say it. But I'm from Minneapolis. My adult life has been spent mostly in Massachusetts, in Salem.
Okay.
You know about Salem?
Yeah.
Okay, well, you know, it's also a sanctuary city. The crosswalks are rainbows and everything goes.
Okay, yeah.
The mushrooms are decriminalized. They're not legal, but they're decriminalized.
Yeah.
Because nobody wants to waste any time on that.
Yeah.
Is my feeling, you know, and eventually they'll make tax money off of it, but it works. You'll have, you know, people of wealth living next to poor or middle class. I mean, it's a wonderful city.
Yeah, that's cool.
But on the same token, you know, before it was legal, it was very, very much illegal. I mean, it was, I don't know, I mean, everybody lives so close together, too. It's a little bit different a vibe than, you know, it here. Where, I don't know what I'm trying to say in regards to that argument, but until it becomes legal, and then it's that weirdness about being. So I was born in 1970. You could,
like a perception thing, like you don't want to be open about it, or
exactly.
Okay,
never. You know, just you. But now, you know, people just walk, like I said, walking around, smoking or eating it, or like I said, my thing is that I noticed that how many senior citizens are eating it, and good. Yeah. They're not taking as many drugs, it seems. You know, pharmaceuticals. So. As long as, I read today that Texas was talking about repealing their THC laws.
I mean, that's
a $6 billion industry, and they're talking about making it illegal again.
Yeah.
Now, Massachusetts overshot the tax money they were going to make, but somebody who's a lawmaker doesn't understand that it's a weed. It grows everywhere.
Yeah.
Everybody can get it. It's just that convenience sake.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure that it's. I could be totally wrong about this, but I'm fairly sure that you can just buy the spores off of Amazon and grow them yourself if you wanted to.
Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
It's hard, though.
Yeah, it's not the easiest thing, but, you know, as I've grown up and stuff.
Mushrooms,
yeah. I mean, it's just like growing any other mushroom. It's not easy. No. Like, it has to be a very well-controlled environment.
Very controlled environment, yeah.
You know what's funny is I had some... I'm not going to say his name, but a friend of mine who had interns, and one of these interns came to me, he was like 18, right out of high school. He's like, "You have your own apartment, right?" Yeah. What do you say about us kind of coming together to grow mushrooms? No, we'll pass on that.
Yeah. I mean, I know a guy that was a legal weed farmer in California, Northern California. And I'd go out there all the time, and, you know, he would take me up to the farm and show me around. We went into, I think, Kurt, you were there with us when we went into the basement of his little cabin that he had.
Yeah.
And it was, like, only what I could describe as, like, the most weed I've ever seen. Just, like, these big black containers just full. And I was like, is there weed in all of these? It looked like we were seriously, like, the DA agents at a bust or something. There's so much of it. But, I mean, out there... They went through like, oh, it's legal now. Everybody grows it.
Everybody.
And at first they were making really good money. And then he's like, you know what happened is it got so oversaturated that unless you're really a really, really good weed grower and you know how to like splice it to make certain strains and get the characteristics you want, the dispensaries just have the pick.
Oh yeah,
they're getting so much every day that they're like, we just can get the best. We just get the best of the best. We don't have to settle.
They can't even give it away.
Yeah, and now it's gotten to the point where I think last I heard he had to sell out of his garage again, just like he went back in high school, right? Just to make his little bit of money.
The pager.
Yeah.
The 911.
Yep.
Yeah. I don't think anybody does 911 for weed, but
no, I can't remember what we did back then.
Yeah.
Oh, the 420.
Yeah, 420.
Oh, 420. Yeah, right.
And but it was really interesting to see. I mean, and then the celebrities started getting involved, right? Like Snoop Dogg started buying up all the places that were growing, all the farms, all the weed farms. Willie Nelson got involved. Mike Tyson. And so he was like, yeah, I'm trying to expand my operation, but then I'm competing with money like Snoop Dogg money. How do you do that? Well, you don't.
Then I think the best thing with Mike Tyson were his gummies with the ear with the bite taken out of it.
Nuh-uh.
That's a good advertisement.
Great advertisement.
Yeah, that's what Mike Tyson's gummies were.
That's damn smart.
I think Shaq made some gummies. I don't know if they're weed gummies or not, but he has some gummies tequila, with his face. Right? Yeah.
People apparently like tequila.
Yeah, like gummies. Everybody's got George Clooney's got his own tequila.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it is interesting to see how each state reacts differently. I guess that's the beauty and the downfall of the United States is that the government says they still struggle with it in California, but the government, weed is still illegal according to the federal government. And so he's always having to find a way to basically launder money, but legally, because you can't
bank.
You can't put it all in the bank because
it
won't be they won't do FDIC.
So that is a little bit weird. The first time I went into it, you have to have your ID, and that cop was outside. He's an off-duty cop. In Massachusetts, every construction site has to have an off-duty cop, and making a ton of money on that. But so you show them the ID, and then you go in, you show them another ID, then you go in, you show them another ID again, then you go to the counter, and we finally make the sale. And it's a lot more lax now, but I went into the one that would just opened up kind of in between Salem and Beverly, which adjoin him at the bridge that goes between the two towns. And first time I went in there, I had grabbed my expired license.
Oh.
And I went in, and the guy looked at me, and no, I look just the way I am. I don't look 18, and that's the age. And he says, "What is this horse shit?" I'm like, "What are you talking about?" And he goes, "This is a fake ID." I'm like, "You really think I'm 18?" And they said, "I get the rule behind it that you have to show it, but that's still a state-issued ID. It's not expired or not. It still was issued." And I had to go and come back with it with the valid ID.
We deal a lot with that in Utah, but it's for bars because bars are so strict about it. Even no matter your age, like you have to possess a valid ID to be in a bar, and so
cannot be expired.
A lot of people get upset because they'll come in and be like, "Well, I'm obviously older than 21," and they're like, "Yeah, but it's not our law; it's the state law that says you can't be in here unless you have an ID."
So interesting, that Massachusetts thing. When I was driving out here, I was using my Massachusetts driver's license to pay the tolls. I didn't have I didn't have the cash or the card with me that you could do it, so everybody was accepting it. In the last place in Ohio, we were kind of shuffling back and forth, and I had my licenses out there, so I've been using my passport. So when you go to buy, like at the gas station, they want to do it, and more times out of not, and you show it, you whip this out, and you say, "I don't care if somebody needs to see it." And in Massachusetts now, a lot of the places you actually have to scan your license in order for the register to work.
And that's how it is here.
Yep.
Okay, there you go. It's a great idea. Places, it takes away all that bullshit. Yeah. But I show this, and they go, "Okay, thank you, officer." I'm like, well, no, it's a passport.
That's funny.
I mean, it's just my age. So.
It does kind of amaze me how few people have passports. Like I didn't get one for
I have one.
I didn't get one for a long time.
They're a pain to get you should never let them expire. You can renew them online.
I think I need to renew mine next year.
You
6 months in advance. Well, what's the real ID? Maybe they look upon that better.
I think that's just what they're used to. I know that if you present like a passport at a bar now that doesn't have the little scanner, so they have to write it down in a book and log that they took somebody's passport. A big thing too is that people present out other countries' IDs, and they'll say, well, this is my country's valid ID, and they're like, no, you need to have a Utah ID that says that you're legally in here. Like I think at this point, you can take like a Mexican ID.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, if you're from out of country, they have to accept it.
Yeah, I think it's changed since
especially
then,
if it's a passport.
A passport's acceptable. Yeah, I think a passport's always acceptable.
So except for the Little America.
Which
but you use your passport card.
It's the same fucking thing.
But is that the real ID or is that a passport card itself?
It's passport card.
Yeah.
Huh.
It was issued by the federal government, so I agree it's the same thing.
Yeah.
But who was that guy? He was from Bulgaria, I think.
I don't
was
care
that
where
time?
he was from.
No, but I'm just
not taking my passport as ID.
See, Kurt's the same. You were so triggered after that too. You were so mad.
Pissed.
I'm like, you have your ID with you. He's like, that's not the point.
He didn't want it bad enough.
Yeah,
you want to make a point?
I think you did finally just give him your ID or something.
Yeah, but still, he's like, we can't take this. Why not? It's a passport. It's better than a state ID.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a federal ID.
Yep.
But it's only good for
you can only use
land
your card.
travel.
Yeah. Yep.
Or for a cruise ship.
Yep. Cruises. Yeah. Much handier than bringing your passport.
I wonder if there's a statute of limitations on telling a story about having a fake ID as a kid. I'm just going to assume it's over.
I'm pretty sure that most statute of limitations is 7 years. So
as long as you didn't kill anybody.
No, I didn't kill anybody.
Then you're fine.
However, and I'll tell you this quickly. When I was 18, the day after I graduated from high school, I moved to Massachusetts. And, I was sitting around doing nothing because Marblehead, Massachusetts, all the kids went off to college. So I was by myself. Didn't know anybody. My dad comes down one day and he says, why don't you just go to a couple bars? I'm like, I'm 18, Dad. I can't go to bars. He's like, well, get a fake ID. Where do I just get a fake ID? And he's like, well, let's go down to the registry. So we would gather up all my older brother's stuff. It is a shoebox, but nothing official. Not a birth certificate, not a social confirmation, baptism records, like presidential physical fitness award or some shit like that. So we go and wait in line, and we walk up to the lady, and this is, again, 1989 or so, and she says, what do you need? And I said, I want a liquor ID card, which is what they provided if you didn't have a driver's license. You could. And I still have it, by the way.
That's a cool keepsake.
Oh, yeah, no, it's because it's all his information, including his social security number.
Oh, wow.
Which he said a couple of times, like, I better not affect me at some point,
Yeah, I can remember having my first driver's license, and it showed my social security number on it.
Yeah, you're not allowed to have that on there anymore.
Not anymore.
Yeah. Oh, and these were like a laminated, the driver's license even, where you could peel it off and you could change it. Things. But she gave it to me after saying, I'm sorry, honey, there's nothing official in here. And I said, well, I brought my dad with me. He's like, good enough for me. And they gave me the ID, and I had an official ID and I actually worked at a liquor store, which was, you couldn't work at that age. And somebody came in when I turned 21 and said, hey, happy birthday. They knew it. And the guy said, what do you mean? How old are you? And I was like, 21. He's like, get out.
Yeah.
So, I worked there for 3 years with a fake ID.
Illegally?
Yeah, illegally. Well, it was not only illegal, but I was getting paid cash, too. Right. So, it was double illegal. But
yeah. I remember, this... When you said laminated, I'm adopted, and so when I got the birth certificate and everything, it came from Arizona, right? But I grew up here. It was like I was just brand newborn, don't remember any of that, So this has just always been my life. But in the early 90s and mid 90s, lamination was the cool thing, dude. You laminated everything important, because then if you spill water on it, it didn't matter. Well, my mom at the time
I laminated this in I don't know, somebody probably look it up, but it's a Calvin and Hobbes from 1988, 89. It's still working.
Cool. My mom and she totally well intentioned, right? She laminated my birth certificate, and it was fine back then. They didn't have a rule against it or anything. Yeah, and I used it to get I think I used it to get my driver's license and things like that. But then I remember that I needed to renew my driver's license, and one of the things they wanted was my birth certificate, and so I took it in there, and they're like, we can't take this. And I'm like, great, what am I going to do now? Do I have to drive to Arizona to get it reissued? And then what am I going to do with that? Turns out I just knew a lawyer who was also a notary, and so that worked. Luckily, I didn't have to drive all the way down there, but it was just so funny to me that it's like, why was everybody all about lamination? And then the next year they're like, sorry, we don't accept those as valid documents anymore. But
I think the Social Security card used to say don't laminate on it.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, and you know what? I think we laminated that one too.
It's like peeling the mattress.
It made me laugh because I'd look at the back and I'm like, oh, the first line on the back of this card is "Do not laminate." But
But is that now, or is that...
I think if I remember, the laminated Social Security card that I had, the first line on the back was "Do not laminate." Yeah, and I think we just took it somewhere and they just did it. I think it was just because it was all the rage back in the 90s, just to protect your important documents.
Just in case you got,
fell in the water.
Pushed into the pool.
You never blew away and landed in a puddle or something when you were taking it to the DMV.
It's weird how those things, though, when it was just paperwork, worked. I went to go get a school loan when I was 26 or so. And they said, well, you never registered for the selective service. I was like, sure I did. When I was 18 at school, they came around and we all filled it out and put it in there. Turns out my mom gave me my dad's Social Security number. So his was on it. And they said, once you hit a certain age, you're not entitled to federal monies anymore.
Oh, interesting.
I don't know how far it went, like Social Security or anything, but I would not have been able to get a Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac, something like that. I wouldn't have been able to do it if I hadn't have taken out a loan.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, so it's weird how things change. Like nowadays, like getting your fishing license is all on your phone.
Yeah.
Like I think they still give you a paper one if you want. It's like
that was the kind of cool thing, something you could hold.
Yeah,
I still have on it. They give you a little sleeve to put it in.
Yeah. A little green sleeve, and then you just throw that in your tackle box or whatever.
Usually had the gas station name on it. You know?
The business you got it.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, like literally, when's the last time that you had a paper concert ticket?
So the Kilby Block Party, I got a paper ticket.
Oh, you did?
But I requested that because I'm like, I think I'll just keep it. Yeah. And I mean,
I have a collection of those, and I can't believe you can't get them anymore.
Yeah, and I think that they actually charge you a little extra to like mail it to you or something.
Probably.
But one thing that was also, I was just thinking about that's interesting is like DVDs and video games, and like that stuff is now just. What's crazy to me is that renting an online movie, they'll charge you like $8 to watch a movie that you don't get anything for it. Like
they don't either. They don't even touch it.
Yeah. They do no service at all.
Nothing.
It's just like a switch flips and you can watch it for 3 days.
Yeah, 3 days or whatever it is.
But like the days of going down there and being like, oh, they're doing a new release of the Indiana Jones trilogies and like whatever, they're going to do a box set, dude.
Yeah,
I gotta get that. I remember my dad buying it from Media Play. If you remember that store.
Yes, I do.
From Media Play, we went in there and we just browsed the CDs, and I found some CD that I wanted. I don't remember what it was, but I remember him being like, I'm getting this one. I'm like, what is it? It was a 2-disc 24 karat gold CCR CD.
Really?
And I was like, that's got to be somewhere still.
Was it in
Dad,
the one
if you're
where
listening, let me know.
The anti-theft thing where it was like that long?
Yeah.
Leaf through it almost like a record?
Yeah, and I remember playing that CD thinking it was so much cooler that it was 24 karat gold. Oh, yeah. Like, I'm like, dude, this CD is
just a fresh
coolest.
CD. You can twist it with the
smell.
The rainbow. Smell.
Yeah, that's something that the younger generation today is totally just will never know.
Mm-hmm. No.
Like you ask them like, oh yeah, you remember the old answering machines? Or like, no, because they don't even remember what a landline was.
Yeah.
They don't remember that you couldn't hide being on the phone because you'd have that long phone cord going all the way down the hall.
And if you like twist it around, then it would wrap around your body.
Oh, yeah.
I did see somewhere, it must have been on Reddit, where somebody was talking about a kid, and who knows if it's a real person, but had said, wouldn't it be interesting if we just had one phone in the house for everybody to use?
In a weird way, I could see just the way the world works. I could see technology reverting back to that, like, because I honestly do miss the days. I remember when my friends would go out of town on vacation, and I would just go over to their house, knock on their door, and nobody would answer. And then I'd go the next day, knock on the door, and nobody would answer. And they'd get back and be like, "Where have you been?" Like, you didn't tell me.
I used to let them have parties at
my
parents' house when we were out of town. House is open, go ahead.
Yeah. And that was back in the days where you could just leave your door unlocked. Yeah. You didn't really have to worry about it. I mean, we'd go out. My parents, I still remember, like, go outside and play. Like, we've got stuff that we want to do.
Locked outside.
Yeah, go outside. And then we'd go create dirt jumps, get hurt, climb trees and fall out of them. And
you got in trouble if you got hurt.
Yeah, well, I mean, depending on how bad.
Yeah, right. It depends on how bad, yeah.
Sometimes a little cut or something, it's like, this hurts so bad. And then other times you're like, oh, we're in deep shit. Like, what were you doing building a treehouse in the neighbor's trees, hammering 16 penny nails into the tree branch and killing their tree?
With rocks.
Yeah.
Or shooting each other with BB guns, tipping over the gas or the garbage cans and shooting over them. Yeah. But what about when you're, I think this is huge into why I have such an ease with people I don't know. And I just met you guys an hour or so ago. I don't have any problem doing that all the time. Maybe if it was, to go hit on somebody, it might be a little bit different, whatever. But I remember my parents back then saying, moving into the new neighborhood at 5 years old and saying, there's a boy your age, 4 houses down. Go knock on his door.
Yeah.
And I sat out there for like 15 minutes going, oh my God, this is so hard. I even at that point, what am I knocking on the door and he's like, you want to play? And that was it.
Yeah.
It's like, there was no rejection or anything. It was just, let's play. And we were best friends for how long? Or being made to apologize to somebody for something that you legitimately fucked up.
Yeah. I remember that my parents a couple times had to walk me over to other people's house, and they're like, no, you're apologizing right now. Yep. And I hated it.
Or back to the 7-Eleven because you stole a penny candy.
Yeah.
But even if you were
Did you say
right.
A penny candy?
Penny candy. But how about the times when you were right about something, but because it was an adult and you said something, you still had to apologize? Yep. That happened too, but then just learned it was okay to apologize to people. That wasn't the worst thing in the world. Yeah,
I watched a buddy of mine, his son's like 7 years old, I think, almost 8 years old, and he pulls out the iPad and cell phones like he's a wizard.
Oh, yeah.
And he's like, play this game with me on the iPad. Play Minecraft. And I'm like, I don't know how to use the controller, dude. I grew up with a physical controller, like with buttons on it. Mm-hmm. And he's like, it's easy. You just do this, and then this is here. And I'm like,
why aren't you playing the guitar?
Yeah, like
piano.
I don't know, because they don't make an app on the iPad that has a guitar on it. That's what they do. Or like the floppy disk. I was talking about that with James, and they were like, what is that? And I was like, oh, man, you guys won't ever experience that.
James?
Yeah.
He didn't know what a floppy disk.
No, his kids.
Okay.
The kids, like, they won't ever know what a pager is. Mm-hmm. They won't know what a Walkman was. Other than they probably watch Back to the Future or Guardians of the Galaxy.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'd go more obscure. You got to figure something out that would be that you, because all those I see, like when they post stuff about on Reddit, like Generation X. I think I'm somewhere in the middle of that, but I don't feel like that. Nobody left me alone. They just, like, I wasn't a latchkey kid. There was one, there was no divorced parents. Maybe it was where I was. But yeah, there was no supervision or anything. I remember going and driving the mini bike around, and then as soon as I got out of eyeshot, taking the helmet off and doing jumps with it and shit like that. But nothing to what people talk about how tough you are and things. And maybe that partially is true and things that parents don't. Guess what I'm trying to say is it doesn't resonate completely with me that actually works out for the most part of who I am.
Yeah.
And I don't know, maybe I'm on the early part of that. 70?
Yeah. Yeah.
Were you guys all left alone to do your things?
For the most part, yeah, but like I had some pretty specific like rules, like if it starts like we're gonna have dinner around this time, like street lights come on, or
but if you
starts getting dark,
disregarded it, I'm gonna catch a beating or anything. You just did it, right?
Yeah. It wasn't something that was like a chore, I guess. Like it seems like nowadays the generation's like, I hate to say it, somebody's out there's gonna be so mad, but there's a lot of entitlement, and like I get this just because like it should be easy, And I think when I grew up, it was like you had to work for it. My parents were always very. I think it was very smart of them, but they always said like nothing's for free. Like you're gonna have to work for pretty much everything, and either are you gonna work like now and you're gonna try hard now, or you're gonna try hard later. But either way, you're gonna have to try.
It's funny is when you got your first job, then you had a little bit of freedom because it was your money.
Yeah,
and then you realize that you have to do that the rest of your life.
Yeah, yeah.
You only made enough to buy a pack of smokes out of the machine.
Yeah, that's the thing. That's funny too, because I talk to people about that all the time, like with their kids. Like, oh, my kid's like 16, and they don't want to listen. I'm like, that was the same way when I was 16. In fact, when I was 18, I told my parents I'm leaving.
If you weren't pushing boundaries.
Yeah.
You weren't ready to leave.
Yeah. I left, and you know what? The first thing that happened is I called my mom and was like, can I come back for dinner every Sunday? We did.
With some good food.
Oh, yeah. And I would just walk in the house and start raiding the fridge because I was 18, 19-year-old. Like, I didn't understand what I'm cooking or even how to cook most of it. My mom did a great job of teaching me that stuff, but
my son still comes over and opens my fridge to see if I cooked anything and have leftovers.
Oh, yeah.
Still to this day.
I just pop open a can of chicken noodle soup and eat it right out of the can.
Yeah.
For years.
Throw it on a little camp stove.
Yes.
Yeah, and ramen. I mean, ramen noodles gets everybody through college, I think. And I mean, now there's other college. Things. Yeah, well,
so I didn't discover
those years.
Well, I didn't discover ramen until a couple of years ago when I got really poor.
Oh, really?
And then I started eating it.
It
wreaks havoc on your system, though.
Oh, yeah.
It's salt. It's just salt.
Yeah, tons of salt.
Yep.
Well, what else? Do we have anything else?
No.
That nostalgia was fun. Oh, you know what? I did think of this when you were like, let's think of something that like the young generation would have no clue, but is a great quiz question. What is 10-second skip protection? Go Google that one.
Yeah. 10-second skip protection. I don't know.
I used to have you used to carry around the Discman, and it was a CD, and if you bumped it, it would protect. It was like you could skip for up to 10 seconds before it would like cut out.
Yeah,
and that was just a normal thing. Like I remember my first Discman didn't have that, so you would be like walking holding this thing like it's a platter because you didn't want it to jump around and ruin your music.
Yeah, we needed gyroscopic stabilized.
Yeah.
But that came into handy. Oh, sorry, excuse me. I was just to say it was you plug into the cassette into the car. That's what I remember it came into.
I do remember that. Yeah.
I just remember the disc cleaners because, like, if you got a scratch on them or
disc doctor.
Yeah, disc doctor.
There was some spray or something you put in there with it.
Dude, it would bug me so bad when I'd go over because, like, in the era of PlayStation 2 and stuff, everything was on disc now. And it would bug me so much when I'd go over to my friend's house and they'd have them all laying face down. Like, they'd just take them out of their...
And flop
they
them
wouldn't
over.
put them back in the case. I'm like, it takes 2 seconds. Can I borrow that game? Then you'd get home and be all scratched up.
Yeah.
Like,
they put their hands on it. It's a CD. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Pop it in the microwave for 30 seconds.
Yep. That'll fix it.
I don't think you should do that.
Yeah,
it's pretty.
Yeah.
You know what? When I go back and look at all the, my dad had a video camera at some point, right? And he would record it. And the early recordings that he put onto DVD eventually, pretty much everybody would say, "Do you get sound with that? Do you get sound with that?"
Yeah.
I'm asking. So
I remember Laserdisc.
Oh, yeah.
Which everybody thought that was going to be because they started putting movies on Laserdisc. Same problem as the tape. You get halfway through the movie until you flip to side B.
Yeah.
No, we didn't have a microwave big enough for those.
You might not even get halfway. You might get a third of the way through.
True.
You might have two
you might have
Laserdiscs.
two Laserdiscs with both sides.
Yeah.
It was like the modern version of the record with Laserdisc.
Yeah.
That was interesting.
But have they actually fixed that? I mean, I noticed that if a video on YouTube goes on, they just pump a commercial in the middle of a song on the radio.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, damn.
Advertising.
Yeah.
Like hold music.
Yep.
Yeah, Kurt's eyes twitching because we talked about advertising too much.
Yeah.
And now a word from our sponsor.
Yeah.
We don't have a sponsor. How's that for advertising? Well, Mark, thank you so much again for
Yes,
coming on
thank
the
you.
show. The only rule we have around here is once you're on the show once, you got to come back so we can talk a little bit more about some of the artist stuff you do. And we kind of, seems like the first time we interview somebody, we always kind of veer off on different angles, which is fun. But we get more into your art and stuff like that. You're also looking for a job, so if anybody's got work from Mark, reach out.
Please.
You can go to theweeklyInsult.com and there's a contact page there. And then
thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. You're welcome back anytime. Kurt's like waiting for it.
What is he waiting for?
I don't know. Let's just sit in silence for a minute. This has been your weekly insult.
I was wondering who was going to break first. Yeah. Is it going to be Kurt? Like, get the fuck out of here.
I thought Kurt was just going to say it as soon as I did that. Yeah, man. Awesome job. It was great talking with you. It was a lot of fun.